Welcome to video number 1 in the Importance of Carbs for Fat Loss series. In this video, I'm going to talk about what carbs are, why carbs are so important, good versus bad, and of course I'll touch on the glycemic index, alright? So, let's get started. See you on the other side.
Just look into this crystal ball like, he's got the whole world in his hand.
Okay, so let's talk carbs. And I feel bad for carbs because it gets a bad rap. People think when you eat carbs, you're going to get fat. But that's further from the truth. Carbs are so important to have, especially when you want to burn fat, raise your metabolism while building lean muscle. So today I'm going to help you understand how to use carbs, when to use carbs, when to eat carbs, how many carbs you should be eating, the difference between good carbs and bad carbs, and a whole bunch of other great information so that you can maximize eating carbs so we can burn fat while we build lean muscle. Male or female, listen up because this information is going to be great. So what are carbs? Carbohydrates are a macronutrient that the body needs in high doses on a daily basis in order to properly function. Now when you eat carbohydrates, they automatically get converted to glycogen, and the body either uses it immediately for energy through slow doses of blood sugar, or it'll store it in the liver and the muscles to use it as energy for a later date. So we have two types of carbs. There's complex carbs, which provide the body with a steady dose of blood sugar. And there's simple carbs, which cause a spike in blood sugar that quickly dissipates. So if you want sustained energy throughout the day, you want to eat foods that are rich in complex carbs. Okay, so why are carbs so important? Especially for you and me who want fat loss and train at a high intensity, our body's preferred fuel for training is muscle glycogen. And as I just said before, when you eat carbs, it gets converted to glycogen, and the body will either use that immediately for energy or store it in your muscles or liver for later. Okay? Now, if the body breaks down muscle glycogen, and it breaks it down and breaks it down, and it's not replenished by more glycogen, then that's when we get tired, we get fatigued, and we're unable to train at such a high level and high intensity. So it's so important for us that our body needs to replenish those glycogen stores by eating rich carb foods. Okay, so bottom line is, guys, if you want to train at a high and optimal level, your body needs a high concentration of muscle glycogen, which can only be achieved if you eat carbs, all right? Again, good carbs. I'll get to that in a second. Okay, so let's talk about good carbs and bad carbs. And let's start with the bad carbs first. So bad carbs are like, think of it like an explosion. They get into the body, they explode and cause all kinds of crazy bad things to happen to the body. And examples of bad carbs would be things like white rice, refined sugar, white pasta, white potatoes. And good carbs, on the other hand, will get into the body, and it's like slow kindling, you know, it gives your body energy throughout the day. And some good carbs are like vegetables and quinoa and butternut squash. So you want your body to have obviously the good carbs. So how do you measure good carbs from bad carbs? I've given you a couple of examples of each one, but there's got to be a better way, and there is. People use the glycemic index to measure carbs, and anything high in the glycemic index, high carbs, are very bad for you. Anything that's low, very, very good. So that's basically the difference. High glycemic, no good. Low glycemic, hey. So let's talk about types of carbs. Now, I've talked about good carbs and bad carbs. I've talked about carbs that are high glycemic, which are bad, and carbs that are low glycemic, which are good. But what you're probably going to hear the most about carbs and the differences between the carbs, they're complex carbs and they're simple carbs. And those are the ones you're probably going to hear a lot. So how do you differentiate between the both? Well, complex carbs are good carbs. So things like vegetables, legumes, grains, fruit, those are all good carbs, okay? Bad carbs are simple carbs. So simple carbs are bad carbs. So things like sugar, white flour, white pasta, all that, the bad stuff. And how I differentiate the both and how I tell them apart, because sometimes you're like, oh, is that a complex carb or is that a simple carb? Is that a good carb or is that bad? Is that simple, is good, bad, what's up, what's good, what's up, what's down? Well, basically how I differentiate it is sugar is bad. We know that sugar is bad. Sugar starts with the letter S. Simple starts with the letter S, which means simple, sugar, bad. That's it. So if simple is bad, then that means complex is good. And you look for carbs that are in the complex category. Complex carbs, again, grains, vegetables, fruits, legumes, there's some miscellaneous stuff in there, but those are generally your good carbs. I hope you found that information useful. Please leave your comments below, give it a thumbs up, and stay tuned for video number 2, where I'll talk about the best times to eat carbs, a list of some of the good carbs, and one carb you can eat all the time to maximize your fat loss. See you again.